Vanessa Feltz. We took your blood, and the people at GlycanAge tested it, and we are now joined by Dr. Nicola Conlon to reveal your biological age. So your chronological age is 64. Your biological age is... Are you ready? Today's guest lived more of her life in public than most of us could ever imagine. Vanessa Feltz has spent over 35 years on our screens and airwaves talking about love, loss, family, work, weight, and everything we're usually taught to keep quiet about. She's been a wife, a single mom, a workhorse, a national confessor, and for decades, her body has been part of the public conversation too. It's been a roller coaster, from being on diets at just age 9 to years of yo-yo dieting and then onto life-saving surgery. Vanessa's relationship with food, stress, and self-worth has been shaped by pressure, both private and painfully public. She's busier than ever. She says she feels younger than her age, but what will her blood reveal about what that pace has really cost her? Vanessa Feltz, welcome to What's My Age Again.
God, fascinating. Desperate to find out. Can't wait. What a great episode. I would definitely tune in.
Who wrote that one?
God, stunning. Love it.
How do you feel hearing, you must have heard yourself be introduced many, many times in your career?
I like it much better than those absolute cop-outs who say she needs no introduction. I always think, yes, I do. Go home and work on it. Come back when you've written it. What do you mean? I'd like a sonnet, at least a villanelle, a couple of limericks, something, not just needs no introduction. So I much prefer that.
Put in the research.
Yeah.
Well, you do. It's true, though. You need no introduction.
Oh, bloody hell, I do. I feel I do.
I think we have a kinship. I think I sort of was supposed to be a Jewish mother.
Well, you're living in the right place.
Yeah, I live in a Jewish neighborhood. I auditioned for a while dating a Jewish man, but it didn't go my way. But now at least, well, because he wanted more Jewish than I was able to offer. Yeah, but now at least I can work on Friday nights.
True. I wasn't allowed out on Friday night till I was 37.
And what did you do for that first Friday?
Went completely insane, as you can imagine. Unleashed myself on an unsuspecting world in an immoderate manner. Fantastic. I only had to wait 37 years for the chance.
And did Friday evenings live up to the hype of what you thought they would be?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. If your body could tell the truth, Vanessa, about your life so far, what do you think it would say you've done too much of or too little of?
I think I've been too virtuous.
Do you think?
Yes, I think my body would say I've been boringly abstemious, taken sex much too seriously, taken everything much too seriously, tried in vain to appease my parents and live up to whatever impossible standards they sought to impose upon me, always failing but still trying, boringly faithful to the tedious and scummy men in my life. I think my body would say, God, you should have used me much more and abused me much more.
Well, it's not too late.
I know. I'm hoping to rev it up at some point.
What is your relationship status currently?
Questing. Searching. I seek him here, I seek him there. Single, but reluctantly, so I don't like it. I haven't managed to adjust to it well.
Because one would think that after your trials and tribulations, and also looking at all the success you've had, that maybe you would have concluded by now that these men were anchors in your life. And aren't you better off with your friends and your dinners and your grandchildren and your girlfriends? I mean,
yes, but there's always this bit, there's always the chunk of the day where they're not there, where you can't just muster a girlfriend or summon up a grandchild, or, you've read your book and you've watched your film and you've read your book, you've finished, you can't keep reading the whole time so your eyes fall out. You've been out, you've seen the thing, you've walked up the red carpet, you've done whatever it is. Right. And then, this is the bit I don't like, I'm just telling the truth here, I could glam it up a bit more, but I'm just telling the truth. Come home and it's an empty, dark, rather cold house, and there's no one there to say, was it all right? Or even someone who doesn't care if it's all right, that you can then have an argument with because they didn't ask you whether it was all right or not. There's no one to refuse to have sex with. There's no one to have sex with. There's no one to make a sandwich for. There's no one to resent. There's just no one. And it's so boring. It's so quiet. It's so tedious. Your own thoughts roam and get bigger and bigger. And I already know my own thoughts. I don't want to know more about my own thoughts. I already know them. And I miss somebody to say to, gosh, look, there's a fox in the garden. I'm not expecting them to come back with some aperçu or some, absolutely withering aphorism. But just if you've seen the fox in the garden, I like someone there to say, look, there's a fox in the garden too. I don't like it. If it's just myself and I'm all alone and I'm thinking, there's a fox in the garden, I feel bereft of somebody to say that to. I don't like it. So I just like a companion, not a companion. I like a sexy, vibrant, fabulous partner that I'm attracted to, that is astounding and amazing and divine and all that, smells nice and all that. Yeah. But failing all that, I like someone there that you can just kind of blurt to occasionally. On my own, it feels too quiet and too dull and not what I want.
I love that might be the title of your next book. Oh, look, there's a fox in the garden. It really is. It sums up marriage, I think, in one phrase. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah. And also, and people do say this often, and they are right. You know, you can muster up pals and chums and family members and God knows what to do stuff with. But the bit in the middle where you're not actually doing anything, all you're doing is sorting out your tight straw, you can't get anyone for that bit. And I like someone for that bit. I like someone for all of it. I like someone there. I don't like being on my own.
Even with all the conflict and betrayal and the shame and everything that comes with these men, you still want one there to point to a fox with?
Yes. And that's why I stayed so long in these doomed and hellish, sinister, ghastly relationships, because I just couldn't face the spectre of being on my own. It was a mistake. I do regret it.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of it. And I don't recommend it to anyone. And I wish I hadn't done it. But I did do it. And that was the reason why I did it. I just couldn't bear to come out the other end and just be alone. And now I have to just get on with it, don't I?
Well, unless you do it to yourself again, Vanessa.
Well, I'm trying to do it, but I can't seem to enlist anyone. I can't seem to court-martial anyone and just force them into Feltz Towers to take residence. It's so difficult.
Well, you look sexy today.
Well, that's very kind of you to
Did you
say.
take
You look very Amish today.
I do look very, yeah, I'm shutting it down. I've pointed out too many foxes in too many gardens.
You've had too many babies to want to look sexy now.
I'm buttoning it up.
But you look very pretty. You look very Anne of Green Gables.
Thank you.
When she did get the dress with the puff sleeves.
She did.
Yeah, and you did too.
You know Anne of Green Gables. What a Canadian reference.
Don't just know it. I could probably quote reams of it by heart. I love Anne of Green Gables.
The same person.
Your Poinsettia Marilla and all that.
Yes.
And Matthew Cuthbert and Diana Barry and everybody.
I played Josie Pye in the live musical.
I bet you were gorgeous as Josie Pye.
Pretty good.
I bet you were very good. That's excellent casting.
I've always been the ugly friend.
Oh, not the ugly friend. Josie Pye there's something about Josie Pye. She's got a bit of charisma.
She's a rascal.
Exactly.
Did you take a car here? Are you taking a car home?
Yes.
I think you should take the Underground, because that's when you'll be noticed.
But I do. I'm always on the tube. I've got the free card for being ancient.
Oh, yes.
It's the magnificent card. I love it. It's one of the loveliest things in my life.
Can I ask you, because you do look so vibrant, in the same way that you might get ID'd to buy alcohol, do you get ID'd to be using this?
You're a very sweet person to suggest that. No one has ever hinted that I might not have earned in terms of being on this planet far too long. This over 60 free tube card. No, I've never had it. I wish they would, but they don't.
And what is your chronological age?
What about my metaphysical age, my metaphorical age, my poetic age? We want to hear my chronological age.
That's the most boring one.
What a horrible one. I was born on the 21st of February, 1962. And so that means I will be at my next birthday, which is only a week or so away, 64. Yeah. And I remember being in the car with my mother and my mother saying, your grandpa, who we call Papa Willie, Papa is going to be 64. Don't start singing that Beatles song, because it might upset and offend him, darling. And so I didn't, lest he be offended at the idea of being 64, losing his hair and all that stuff. And now I'm about to be 64. I can't quite believe it, actually.
It's a different time, though, to be 64. And to be in show business and 64, you've got more hair than ever. Like, it's a different time for women. I think we're lucky to be born when we were.
Do you think so?
Yeah, because it isn't shrouded in the same like secrecy and shame that maybe our mothers and certainly our grandmothers dealt with it.
Or did they, though? Were they shrouded in secrecy and shame, or were they just simply getting old and no one thought anything of it? They just were expected to, and they just did. Whereas we are shrouding our ages in secrecy and shame by trying to conceal them. I think maybe the secrecy and shame is all ours and was never theirs.
Do you think?
Yes.
No, my mom and my grandma hated getting old, hated it. Really believed that their value was tied to youth and fertility and beauty, and then they got into all sorts of trouble.
Really?
Yeah, they really didn't like it.
Well, my mother never got old. She died at the age of 57.
And that's it. So maybe you have reframed it to see it as more of a privilege.
I do think it's a privilege. Of course I do. I mean, every day I've outlived her seems to me like a gift. And I'm not just saying it to be schmaltzy and like some kind of, because I'm hoping for a contract with Hallmark cards. But I mean, I really do think there's lots of people. I once did this on the radio. I asked, did you expect to die on the same day at the same age as the parent that you lost prematurely? And I said, if I've really misjudged this and you just think I'm insane, you can certainly ring and say so. But people rang and said yes. You know, if their mum had died at, 37, they never thought they'd get past 37. If their dad had died at 52, they never thought they'd get past 52. I know that Woody Harrelson definitely felt that because I interviewed him on The Big Breakfast. He said that. Eamon Holmes, of all people, thinks that because his father died at, I think, 64 or something like that. And so every day beyond 57 that I've managed to survive, I have considered a bit of a bonus.
That's very young.
Yeah.
How did she die, if you don't mind me asking?
She died of cancer.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I think, the diagnosis was muddled by the menopause, as it often is.
I see.
This medical misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good for comedy, not. But anyway, true.
It can be good for comedy sometimes. I have one bit where if you have endometriosis and you try to get diagnosed, you go into the doctor and they open up a massive textbook and they go, your vagina's haunted. Like, they don't know. They haven't studied us.
Who was it that was diagnosed with hostile vagina syndrome or something?
Me.
Was it you?
Self-diagnosed. So what kind of men?
I thought you were going to say what kind of vagina. I was just going to say warm, welcoming, obviously tight.
Okay, this is an advert. This is like a live dating show. I'm the new Cilla Black. I think that it's inspirational and troubling that you're still interested in a heteronormative relationship with a man after everything that you've been through. And I love how candid you are. I think you have such a beautiful connection with women in this country and your audience because you talk about the relationships that you've navigated and everything that had happened.
I mean, navigated is the word.
Well, what happened with the last
Vasco
one?
da Gama, bloody hell. I've really not navigated a damn thing. Oh, the last one imploded hideously and, I don't even know what to say about it, just ghastly.
And is it kind of a similar pattern with men? Is they seem to betray you?
I think so.
Because I wonder, because you're so clever, and I've seen this with clever women in my life. You mentioned before that whether you're pointing out the fox or you're just talking about the weather or whether you have resentment, it's still something to do. I think that often clever women seek out stimulation and you choose, whether knowingly or unknowingly, these very stimulating men because their behavior requires you to exercise vigilance and assessment all the time, whether you know it or not. And it's something to do, something to mourn over, something to get over, something to watch, something to... Do you see what I mean?
I do see what you mean, but I haven't deliberately done
Not
that.
deliberately.
I haven't sought out the most time-consuming, worrying, anxiety-inducing man and thought, oh, great, you'll be a project. I haven't looked for projects at all. I have each time not realised that I was diving into a project. I've always thought that this was a, charming, gifted, desirable, delightful, compassionate individual who would be a delight at all times.
Yeah.
And got it desperately wrong. But I don't know whether there is a thing about men, certain men anyway, targeting bright, highly active, dynamic women.
Yeah.
And then really making it their mission to destroy them and bring them down, pursuing you with great ardor and conviction until they woo and win you. And then saying, and who are you anyway? And you think you're a big deal and you think you're all that and you think you're something special and you think you're so clever and you're not at Cambridge now. And I thought, I know I'm not. I'm in High Barnet at the Aldi. Of course I'm not in Cambridge now. I didn't think I was at Cambridge now. And what do you mean? And what they mean is you're not particularly clever. And even if you are, I don't care. It doesn't impress me. You're not impressive. What is the point of you? You are pointless. You are worthless. That whole thing. And you think, well, why did you even allow me to make you chicken soup the first time around? It wasn't like I came for you. You came for me. Mm-hmm. You pursued me. You said you wanted me. I finally allowed myself to be landed and lassoed. And now you're trying to say, what is the point of me? I'm utterly worthless. I'm not at Cambridge now. I'm not on the radio now. I'm not on television now. I'm nothing, nothing, nothing. And yet it's perfectly fine for me to pick up the bills and pay for everything and toil like fuck, to maintain your luxurious style of living. But I'm really worthless. And I you just think, well, what was that? And what was that for exactly? Could have just let me go about my business and left me unmolested and uninsulted. That would have been fine. What about that?
Do you think it's maybe, I'm not qualified to clinically diagnose anybody's behavior, but do you think it's a type of narcissistic misogyny where they want to punish you for being...
Yes, I do.
I think so too.
Yes, I do think that.
I think you're a very special kind of honey to a very evil bee. And that's why you got to take yourself out of the game.
Well, now I'm out of the game, but I'm not happily out of the game.
I'm going to petition to keep you out
Don't be. I was hoping you'd introduce me to someone to get me in.
No, because I think you and I have the same type.
I was thinking your grandfather or something. I was thinking there must be someone, some old relation, some Mountie or someone in Canada. I could just fly casually in for some maple syrup and just, bond it like you did, just a one night stand that turns into true love. Then I could have several more children, which I'd like to do. I
finally got a nice one, but all of my older male relatives died doing what they love, alcoholism.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah. But Bobby, my lovely husband, he might have some relatives.
Old ones.
Not old, older.
Older. Ask him.
Okay.
I'd be most grateful.
The key is you can't be interested initially, because I think that's how we know these men are bad.
Yes, remain aloof.
Have you dated any nice men and it just fizzled out?
In my whole life?
Yeah.
I wish I could say yes.
None.
I don't think so.
I'm still not a lesbian.
I know, but because I once had a dream where I was just approaching the nun.
Yes.
And in my own dream, I screamed in panic, oh my God, no. I mean, I think vaginas are delightful. I just don't want to touch one or of anyone else's or go anywhere near one. I think they're charming, but not to me. That's not my thing. And I don't think you can make it your thing, do you?
You can't. No, this is how you know.
You can't just sensibly choose to be a lesbian.
You cannot.
No, unfortunately.
Or else we would all be lesbians.
Damn shame. Yeah.
Well, that is going to get rid of half of our listeners.
Why?
Because it's the lesbian listeners now have turned it off.
Couldn't love a lesbian more. I just don't want to make love to a lesbian, but I wish I did. I'd love to.
Well, you've lived so much of your life very publicly, and that's not just your relationships, your body, your work, your heartbreaks. Yeah. When you think about your life as a whole, because some of this sounds quite stressful, Vanessa. The nipples against.
That was the highlight of the entire thing. That was the best moment of my whole life.
Do you feel the age on your passport?
I don't. I always feel I think I look and feel and sound and seem and am exactly as I was in 1976 when I was 14.
Yeah.
And when I was 14 in 1976, it was the long, hot, legendary summer of 76, which you may not have even read about in the history books. No. It was this extraordinary summer. Have you never heard about it?
No.
Oh, it was magnificent. It was this summer when it never rained. It stopped raining. It didn't rain. I mean, this may not be exactly accurate, but I'll explain how it felt at 14. Mm-hmm. It kind of stopped raining, let's say in middle February or something, and it didn't rain again till the end of October. And my grandma said it's the end of the world. This is Armageddon. This never happens in England. No. Lots of people had to go to a standpipe to get water. You were told to bath with a stranger or a friend to save water. Wow. It was burning hot. Everyone's hormones were up, especially mine. I was 14, absolutely rampant. You couldn't go to bed because it was too hot. My father was in the pajama underwear business and nobody was wearing pajamas because it was too hot. He said, we're going to go broke. We're going to starve to death. You've got to keep your pajamas on even in the steamy, horrible kind of humid atmosphere. He went into the ice cream and t-shirt business. Everyone did because you had to make a living and it was burning hot. And English and British people started behaving in ways they'd never behaved at all. Too hot to do anything else, which is burning hot. It was fabulous, absolutely fabulous. So you could just snog a lot. You could kind of romp through the rhododendron bushes at night because no one could go to sleep. The whole neighborhood changed, atmospheres changed.
Sounds like a UTI waiting to happen.
It was fantastic. Or pregnancy, of course. It was absolutely superb. And that's when I was 14. And I feel exactly the same now. I don't think I've changed. I think the things I liked then, I like now. Things I didn't like then, I didn't. Yeah. That stuff. I feel 14. I know I don't look 14, obviously I get that, but I feel, and I think the general vibe of me is the same though.
I think your silhouette looks 14 for sure.
Don't think that's true, but I think I looked kind of similar to this.
Yeah.
I had long hair.
Yeah.
I had lots of mascara, probably false eyelashes if I could get them to stay on. I had big boobs. I had a push-up bra. I had the urge to be just as I have. I wanted attention just like I do now. When my girls were little and we go to Marks and Spencer in Temple Fortune in northwest London, there were two buttons, push one for a ticket and one for attention. And the girls used to say, push the one for attention. You love it. And that hasn't changed. I think I'm still, full of whatever it was I was sort of teeming with then. Maybe not the same number of hormones, though, in fairness.
Different ones.
No. Well, no, none, I think, at the moment. Don't think I've got a hormone anywhere to be. If you ask me to report on my hormones, I think they've long departed this vessel.
I think you have some. I don't know.
I don't think I have any.
I think the makeup of hormones changes, but I think we retain hormones.
Well, let's ask the doctor. Do I have a single hormone when the doctor comes?
Okay, I'll ask Nicola. Has this been linear? You've always felt this joie de vivre, this 14-year-old Vanessa, or has it ebbed and flowed? Have you been in periods where you felt very different and then returned to this person?
I've always felt like this. I've always wanted something and tried to get it and worked hard and felt full of stuff, like full of oomph and emotional stuff. When I did Big Brother the second time, I asked to have the psychiatrist come and see me because obviously the first time I'd imploded and written on the table in chalk and wearing a leopard skin dressing gown and dark glasses, and the whole nation thought I'd had a nervous breakdown in front of them, and I obviously hadn't, but it looked as if I had. So when they asked me to do it again in 2010, I said, well, the guy better come and examine me and see if I'm fit to do it because I can't see him imploding on telly again. Anyway, he came, examined me, blah, blah, and he said, you can do it. You are sane. You will be fine. He said, but of course, your emotions are somewhat exaggerated. And I thought, no, they're not. What do you mean? What do you mean exaggerated? Those are my actual emotions. You can't tell someone else that their emotions are exaggerated, can you?
It's a weird turn of phrase, isn't it?
Yes.
Like, not you have big feelings, your
emotions are exaggerated.
Your emotions are exaggerated.
Well, fuck off, man. Yours are bloody understated, you pusillanimous fool.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I emote, it's true, and I either fervently love it or desperately loathe it. I feel extremely engaged by it. I'm offended. I'm on edge. I'm something. I'm never just like, it was okay. And neither are my girls, though. Neither are my girls. All my grandchildren, in fact.
Do you think the Jewish experience is very stressful at the moment?
Yes.
More so than before?
Much more.
Yeah.
Much more, yes, I do.
Do you think...
Heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. I'm so sorry. Do you think that this climate would have an impact on your inflammation, on your stress levels, and then on your biological age?
I haven't thought about that at all. And I would say I hope not, but I wouldn't be altogether surprised if it has some impact. It's very, very disheartening, heartbreaking, lots of words with heart in it, lots and lots of words like that. It really, really is. I mean, I've lived in this country all my life. And on my mother's side, I'm, I think, 6th generation British. I read English literature at Cambridge, at Trinity College. My specialism was Chaucer, Geoffrey Chaucer. I mean, I'm good at Middle English. I'm good at Middle Scottish even. I studied a guy called Henryson who wrote in Middle Scottish. I feel, in every particular of my anatomy, my blood, my cells, my soul, British through and through, because I am. And if I'm not, what am I? What else am I if I'm not British? I mean, I've lived here all my life and it's all I love and all I know and all I am as far as I can see. Yeah. And the idea that people might think me something else because I'm Jewish or decide they despise me before they've even met me, or try to stop me doing things or being things or going to places, or, judge me and despise me is obviously absolutely unbearable, unbearably sad. So do I think it's had any impact on the age of my cells? I've got absolutely no idea, but has it had an impact on my emotions and my equilibrium? Yes.
It's British with exaggerated emotions. They should try it. It's the best kind of British you can be. Let it out. Well, I am sorry. It causes me stress and I'm not even Jewish. You've been on our ears and our screens for 35 years
It's
now.
a long time. Isn't even I think that's a long time.
And that's an incredible work ethic. Where would you say that comes from?
I think it comes from a feeling a bit like Dickens of not wanting to end up in the poorhouse, not wanting to end up, with no shoes, starving, wanting to, be able to, to enjoy a level of sort of financial freedom, and also being freelance. And being freelance, plays absolute havoc with the ego because people can throw you out. You're never on the staff. You're the first to go. You're the first to be dispensed with, all that kind of a thing. And so, you always think, God, if it's a job, I'll do the job. Whatever it is, I'll do it. Are they going to pay me? Okay, I'll get the money and I'll do it, and then I'll get the next one and do it. And I spent 12 years doing early breakfast on Radio 2, where I had to leave the house at 3:20 in the morning. I was on air live at 4 a.m., finished at 6:30, ran across 2 roads into Radio London to present the Radio London breakfast show, finished at 10 a.m. and often, twice a week, ran down the back stairs, jumped on a motorbike and got whizzed off to do This Morning. So I'd done 3 jobs by 11 o'clock in the morning, which was good fun, actually. And it makes you feel as if you're an urgent person that people are desperate to see. They're always waiting for you everywhere to turn up. It makes you feel busy and needed and wanted and paid, which is a good feeling.
There's a point where, especially when when the girls were little? Have you ever slowed down?
Well, when the girls were little, I wasn't yet, famous or infamous. So I was a freelance journalist just trying to make a living. So it wasn't slow, but it was less. I mean, I wasn't in any goldfish bowl. I wasn't being remarked upon. I was just trying to scratch out a living, really. Married to a junior hospital doctor, so money was very scarce. So I needed to make a living. And then I got famous when they were, I think, about 5 and 8.
Okay.
And the fame was an overnight thing that wasn't necessarily at all predictable, because I only got a show that was 2 afternoons a week. It could have gone unnoticed. There are loads of people on telly all the time and no one knows their name or which mascara they use or how much they weigh or, who's just betrayed them, Yeah. But I became a sort of tabloid figure literally overnight, and life changed in a certain kind of a way. I kind of wanted to pretend it hadn't, but it kind of had in a way.
You're very good for tabloids. Not that the tabloid culture is or was ever very healthy, but in a country where a lot of people keep things to themselves, whether they're emotions or their personal lives or anything else. I love, love, love how much you share. And it's what makes people feel really connected to you, but it's also really headline grabbing.
Well, the thing is, I kind of had to do it because I was meant to be the British Oprah. That was meant to be my raison d'etre. That was who I was supposed to be. So if I was going to have people on my show talking about the fact that they copped off with the best man at their own wedding, or that, they preferred an Italian stallion to a British bulldog or whatever it was, I couldn't then be sort of, cagey about my own life. I didn't think that was fair.
No.
And also when I got famous, I was just married to a Jewish doctor that my grandma chose. And I had 2 little girls. I had nothing at all to say. I wasn't doing anything I wasn't meant to be doing. Everything was just ticking along, and I hoped it would do that forever. So there was nothing I felt that I couldn't talk about or didn't want to talk about. Then when everything sort of went haywire, it was kind of too late to claw back.
Has there ever been a time during your career when your body wasn't scrutinized?
No. I got famous in 1990, really famous in 94. And, those were the years when, the 90s were the years of phone hacking. They were the years of people going through your bins. They were the years of male, middle class, older journalists and editors calling Jade Goody, who'd come from a desperately deprived background where she'd been a carer from the age of about 3, a pig in print, as if that was okay. So I come from the era where everything was considered fair game. People would say the most revolting personal things about particularly women, or almost only women really. And you were expected to, sink or swim, take it on the chin. I don't know what you were meant to do. And it was as if I was just grossly impertinent to believe that I could be on television and not be a size 8 Barbie. And if I wasn't a size 8 Barbie, what the hell was I doing? And whatever wrath I incurred, whatever insults were lobbed at me, I'd richly deserved. Because look at that big fat thing waddling onto television. What the hell does she think is going to happen? That was basically the thrust of it.
And was there a particular headline or journalist or paparazzi experience that stands out as
it was
being...
pretty much all over the show, all over the shop, and it was in all sorts of different outlets, tabloid papers, magazines. They'd be a picture of my bum that they had snapped while I was on a beach on holiday. Usually I hadn't known they'd snapped it, and I'd get back and it would be on the front of a magazine and it would say, oh, yuck, Vanessa, oh my God. Once I saw it, bought up every copy I could see in our local newsagent because I thought it would upset and offend my girls. And it turned out they'd done the same at another local newsagent, thinking that they'd be able to protect me from it. And it was just having the temerity of having an arse.
Yeah.
And I wasn't wearing a thong or, thrusting this arse in the faces of unwilling strangers. I was just on the beach with my kids, with a large arse. And that was basically it. And that was just a crime worthy of real punishment and absolute opprobrium. But it was also quite funny at various times when it's, Vanessa's friends think she's drinking custard again and things like that. And actually, technically, you can't really drink custard. It's too thick. I mean, I did try once I read that. I was accosted at Outside Radio 2 at, 3:20 8:20 in the morning by a Sun journalist with a big thing of custard.
No.
Will you pose with the custard, Vanessa? Now your friends think you're... And imagine a friend of mine telling anyone they think I'm drinking custard.
Vanessa's on the custard again.
What friend would say I was on the custard again? So sometimes it was funny, sometimes it was farcical, but always it was hurtful because, what woman wants to be branded, utterly revolting, vilely overweight, obese, grossly unattractive. It's not nice, is it? You can't lie awake in those early hours and feel good about it.
And have you been able to reflect on, what do you think that it is about show business in particular, but even if you're not in the public eye, that threatens people so much about a woman living authentically and taking up space? Is there a reason they want us to be young and small?
I think it's the idea of sort of diminishing women. I mean, I've interviewed several successful men over the years who, while I'm conducting the interview, tell me to be quiet. And it's my own program, and my job is to question them. And if you'll give me a chance to speak, young lady. If you'll finish and give me a chance to talk. And it's kind of like, well, it's my program and I don't know how long you're going to talk for. So at some point I am going to have to interrupt you with another question, or because it's time for the news, or because the show's finished. I'm not going to just be able to sit there like a silent handmaiden as you talk and talk and talk. Yeah. Men in positions of power who want to shut up a woman, even if the woman's actual job is to question them and ask them things. And I would never be discourteous, never try and stop them talking, only try and ask them a question to find out whatever it is we wanted to know about them, not talk over them, not try and heckle them, just sit there doing my job and be told to shut up while doing my job. And I think it's kind of an extension of that, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that sometimes as men grow, literally fatter in traditional marriages, they grow and they get loud and they get leery. And I have seen so many women shrink themselves to accommodate that space, whether that be metaphysically or literally. We're just meant to be as young and as small and as quiet and as invisible.
Yes, and pliant and compliant and submissive and in every way kind of recessive, kind of receding into yourself to the point where you don't impede them, impinge on them. You're no obstacle. You're no anything. You can be, only if you're, extremely small, thin, young and beautiful can you be an adornment. And to many men, that is the only purpose of you. It's either to shag you or to wish to shag you. If they don't want to shag you and they can't shag you and they wouldn't want to anyway, then what are you for? Just what are you for? And the answer is you're useless. You're absolutely pointless. And that's why they really don't want to hear from you. They don't want to know what you're saying. Even if what you're saying is asking them a question about themselves, they still want to shut you up. The whole thing's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
And you've shared so much about your relationship with your body and the way that you look and being in the public eye and taking all of that horrible abuse. I know that you've spoken about surgeries before. So what exactly...
Well, so I obviously I was overweight, and obviously it was just fair game to abuse me and everything else about it. And obviously it was no fun being reviled or criticised or anything else. However, for years I just thought, well, this is me and this is who I am. Then my husband left and I was utterly brokenhearted, and I was much too brokenhearted to eat. And I knew that using food as a crutch really just would not work because I was so destroyed and so distraught. I just wasn't, for the first time in my life, hungry. And I had first tried losing weight to keep him. And obviously that failed enormously. That was a total catastrophic failure. But I did think, well, I'm losing weight, I'll just carry on losing weight. So I did. And I got slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. Then I had this absolutely gorgeous golden moment, and I'm actually quite angling for one of those now. I'm hoping I might get this quite soon, where the press called me gaunt. And the joy of being called gaunt when you've been called, grossly fat. I can't even explain how wonderful it was to be gaunt. I was gaunt, and I'd lost lots of weight, and I looked much slimmer and smaller, and there was less of me, and I might have looked younger, and some people might have thought I looked better looking, but I was totally brokenhearted. So it was this absolutely bizarre situation where you are so sad, you cannot eat and people are congratulating you the whole time. But you look great. You're so slim. It's like, yeah, but I can't swallow. I can't sleep. I can't sit for long in a bath. I am so heartbroken. I am heartbroken. But you look great.
Yeah.
But you look fantastic. But my heart is broken. I am distraught. But you look fabulous. You're so God. You look great. You're so, what size trousers are you wearing? All this kind of a thing. So that happened. And then I was, roundly congratulated at being so much less of a person than I'd been when I was bigger. This was just great. I was completely diminished, fabulous, terrific. And then a couple of years later, I met someone and cheered up no end. And of course, as I cheered up, my appetite returned because I wasn't heartbroken anymore. So now I was just having a piece of cake and a piece of pie. I've never been a disgustingly out of control binge eater that has to be really ashamed and thinks, oh my God, I just ate a whole chicken and a whole side of beef. That's not me. I would just have a couple too many custard creams and
drinking the custard, of course.
Yeah, an extra kind of dollop of chocolate mousse.
Fine.
And, so I definitely, of course, ate too much, but not in a kind of unbridledly appalling way, but I just kept doing it. So obviously I put weight. So I put the weight back on. And then the press, the kind of reaction was, you fooled us. No, you haven't. You said you'd lost weight, but look, you're putting it on again. Look, you're meant to be thinner. You're not thinner. Look, you're now fatter. God, you're getting fatter. So then I was in this whole kind of thing of yo-yo dieting.
Yeah.
So I would really take the bull by the horns. I would start exercising ferociously. I would eat almost nothing. Eventually, I would lose the weight, and this would be marvelous. Then I'd be celebrated. Everyone would say it was fantastic, and people would want to do a photo shoot with me in a bikini. It was all tremendous.
Were you ever offered any of these commercial deals?
I did one. I did a fitness video. If I can, you can. We went to number 1. It was really good fun. I then copped off with my trainer. That was all good.
Lovely.
Bit of a cliche, but good fun at the time. And so I would lose the weight, and this would be great sort of tremendous acclaim and tremendous applause and well done. And then one day, it would happen every single time. I would sort of be so relaxed because I was now so slim that I would just have a good big piece of strudel or something. Mm-hmm. And then as if by some hideous curse, quicker and quicker every time it happened, the weight would come back on again. You always see these lovely articles about Slimmer of the Year and they've lost 9 stone. And then 2 years later, unfortunately, there they are. And they've not only as big as they were before, but they've gained even more weight. And that would be me. And the difference for me was it was always in the public eye.
Yeah.
So I get bigger, smaller, bigger and smaller and bigger. Really, really boring. Really, really hard work to lose the weight. Really hard. Yeah. And each time harder. And each time the weight came back on faster to such alarming rate of knots that it was like I'd lost 2 stone, 3 stone, 4 stone, and then suddenly, 2.5 weeks later, it was all back again and then some, and it was all in the bed. It was just horrible. It was just all very, very, soul-destroying continuum of hell.
It sounds very stressful.
It's hard work.
Really fueled by this cycle of adoration and shame and bullying by the media. So it didn't come from a healthy place.
No.
And did you have any health problems during?
I did lose an enormous amount of weight. I think it was in 2008.
Yeah.
Just through diet and exercise, relentless diet, relentless exercise, relentless privation, relentless, all of that. And then I did have to have my gallbladder out.
Oh, no.
And funnily enough, there are lots of pieces in the paper now about the fat jabs saying some people are having to have their gallbladders out, presumably because losing weight at speed isn't good for gallbladders. I'm not a doctor, I don't know. But I did have to have that once in 2008. But anyway, finally, I just happened to bump into an old chum who was a bloke who I'd known had always been chubby. And he was slim. And I said, what happened? And he said he'd had a gastric band.
Right.
And I asked my uncle, who's a doctor, should I have this gastric band? Thinking he'd say, absolutely not. Of course not. You don't have surgery for reasons of vanity. But he didn't. He said, for reasons of health, absolutely yes. He said, you really have tried incredibly hard. And I really had tried hard. And I really, really had tried hard to stay slim. And I just couldn't seem to manage it.
You wouldn't after that long, because I think if my knowledge of metabolism is correct from everything I've read, is that once you do that to your body is like a little child inside of you that is like, oh, she's feeding me again, and it holds on to everything.
Think so, something
so
like
you
that.
Wouldn't be eating much, but whatever you would eat, then
Yeah.
and that's why it's
And it takes all joy out of eating. It takes all kind of pleasure. You can't eat a single thing without what people call these days food noise. This internal monologue. Oh, I'm eating an apple. Here I am eating an apple. Should I have eaten it? Shouldn't I have eaten it? Oh my God. Okay, well, I won't have any lunch. I won't have lunch. Oh my God, I'm having lunch. I'm eating an egg sandwich. Oh God, I shouldn't have eaten the bread. I should have taken the egg out. I shouldn't have taken the mayonnaise. Oh Christ. Oh God, I said I wasn't going to have any. And this is just to yourself. Oh, it's exhausting and boring. Really, really, really boring. So this guy had a gastric band. I asked my uncle, should I? I spoke to my GP and they said, yes, do. And I did. And it was terribly disappointing. I don't know if ever anyone's told you what it's like when you have one.
I've heard about dumping, where you're...
Dumping's the least of the problems. Dumping's the least of the problems. That's really not a big deal.
What is that? That's when...
Dumping's if you eat sugar, you feel unwell and lightheaded and like you should go and lie down, but that's not the key thing.
Okay. What's the key
Well,
thing?
the way it works is it's essentially an actual band. It's a kind of rubber, I don't know if it's rubber or plastic ring that kind of constricts your stomach and makes it smaller. So you can't eat big things. You can't eat hard things. You can't eat healthy things.
What?
And if you try... they get stuck sort of in the band and you have to go and bring them up.
Oh, no.
And it's because it's really very weird, but although it's just a piece of plastic, so you would think it wouldn't have a personality, it would be completely predictable and reliable. It isn't. So some days you can swallow, I don't know, let's say a bit of chicken salad.
Yeah.
You can, it's fine. You eat it, it does go down. You have to eat it slowly and carefully, but it goes down. And the next day, the same chicken salad won't go down and you're going to have to go and spew it up.
Gosh.
And the whole thing is very, very difficult. And I say the chief failure with it is eventually you get so bored trying to eat a piece of chicken or an apple because you just can't get it to go down. It's incredibly difficult. And you are, of course, the fat person you always were inside. And so you start to eat the things you can eat, which is, mashed potato, lasagna, chocolate mousse, all the things you're not supposed to eat, but you've got no chance in hell of eating the other stuff. It just won't go down. So you eat the wrong stuff. And then you think, then you quite rightly would say to me, Vanessa, for God's sake, you paid privately to have this gastric band inserted. What the hell are you doing eating chocolate mousse, you idiot? And the answer is, you're right. Yeah, I know. But you can't eat any of the other stuff. You just can't eat it. So what are you going to do? I mean, if you're someone who always liked chocolate anyway, you'll just eat the chocolate because at least you can swallow. So it doesn't take the weight off you in the way that you hope it would. If you were a drinker of alcohol, you probably wouldn't lose any weight at all because you can drink whatever you want. So I think it's a desperately flawed thing, the gastric band.
Because it certainly doesn't sound like it heals any type of relationship with food. It
Certainly
just creates
not.
a whole new anxiety.
It's just a barrier.
Yeah.
To eating. It's just a physical barrier that stops you eating as much as you ate before. But as I say, if you can find the things that slide down, you will probably end up eating far too much of those and nothing of the other stuff. Also, the constant rushing along to the lavatory to puke isn't attractive.
No.
So it's not very good. And in the end, mine got embedded in my liver. And so I had to have an operation to take it out. This is in 2019. I was on this morning on the telly doing what you say I do, which is disclosing all there is to know about me and all of that.
So I was so much more than that.
Talking about that and saying a gastric band and it's stuck in my liver and blah, blah, blah. And they had booked a surgeon called Mr. Shaw Summers on to talk about this so that I wasn't just a view. There was an actual doctor to describe what was going on. And he said to me on the way out, Vanessa, you've got to have it taken out, obviously, because it's, obviously causing you terrible problems. He said, but when you do, really, you should have a gastric bypass at the same time because otherwise, you'll just put all the weight back on again. He said, because eating is an addiction and you're absolutely stuck in it and it's an illness and you can't, you've tried to fight it and you can't. You'll get bigger and bigger and older. And then you'll come and see me and say, can you give me a gastric bypass? It would be much better if you did it at the same time.
Okay.
So I took advice. Obviously, I didn't just go okay. I took lots of advice. Everybody said that operation had got much simpler and much easier than it used to be and much less full of risk and whatever. And so that's what I had in 2019. And it has worked really well. However, I did not know that the fat jab was about to be invented. And had I known, I could have saved all the money, not had a big operation, and I could have had those instead. So I'm a bit regretful about that. Obviously, it's a bit of a shame for me. The timing was off.
You've had the gallbladder out already, so that wouldn't be an issue. What do you think about the jabs?
I'll say this is the only podcast I've ever done where I've mentioned my gallbladder.
Well, it's relevant.
It's a very intimate part of my anatomy I no longer have. I didn't normally discuss it in public, but anyway, the lack of a gallbladder has affected my whole personality.
You discussed the vagina first.
Yes, true.
And the gallbladder second.
True.
What's your view on the jabs? Because they're quite controversial.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Absolutely tremendous. I mean, I know so many people who are on them and just thank God for them. They love them.
Yeah.
And it absolves them of all that horrible internal dialogue about what you should have eaten and you haven't eaten and whether you're going to eat it. And, you know, the minstrels calling to you from the glove compartment of the car at 3:00 in the morning, come and eat me, Vanessa, eat me, that thing. Apparently you don't hear that. You don't hear the food noise. You lose a lot of weight. I've had lots of doctors on my shows talking about, is it good for you? Is it not good for you? And they keep saying that the benefits of being slim massively outweigh whatever any of the risks might be.
Yeah.
So all I know is everyone I know who's on them, A, looks very slim and B, very happy. That's all I know about it. I'm not an expert, but that's what I know.
No, I feel the same. I know a few people on them and there's so much gatekeeping still, I think, about slimness. And the only people who seem to be very anti-jab are people who have nothing else interesting about them, but their thing was smugness because they could be slim.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe you had internal Ozempic all the time. You always metabolized sugar differently. You didn't have the same food noise as these people. And now it's just a level playing field.
Yeah.
And they wanted to be the only skinny ones. Do you feel like as you get older, you feel more at peace with this tabloid roller coaster and this scrutiny of your body? Because it really does. When you sum it all up like that, it sounds so unjust and really stressful.
Very nice of you. I think as soon as I had the gastric bypass, I could, and even when I had a gastric band, I could just say gastric band. I didn't have to enter into a whole conversation about how am I dieting and how am I keeping the weight off and have I gained or have I lost or what's going on. I could just kind of disengage from the whole thing and just not be the poster girl for anything, either dieting successfully or unsuccessfully. Yeah. I just didn't have to be that person anymore. I could just go, as I can go right now, gastric bypass 2019, highly documented. Well documented, absolutely talked about by me every single second. I was talking about it before I had it. I was talking about it in the operating theatre before I had it. So nobody could accuse me of being Fern Britain and pretending I hadn't had it because I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be the person that pretends they don't.
No.
So I want to be the person who says they do. So I've said I do and I have. And that is that. And I don't really have to discuss it anymore because that's the end of that story, isn't it? I hope.
Well, sorry for discussing it
It's
now.
all right, love.
But it is relative to the podcast. Not because of the physical side of it. I'm more interested, I think, in the stress because having done a few series, stress seems to impact biological age a lot. And it sounds
now you're frightening me. Now I think I'm going to come out at 187 or something.
Well, I'm 77.
I didn't really experience it as stress, I don't think. I mean, I didn't think, my weight is stressful.
Not the weight.
I didn't feel, or people's attitude. Or
Yeah.
I don't think I felt stress was the thing. I think I felt, ashamed and unhappy, humiliated, that kind of thing, and also bored.
Yeah.
But not necessarily stress, but maybe I just wasn't using the word stress and it really was stress. I don't know.
I mean, shame and humiliation, all these things, I think the body does recognize as being unpleasant at the very least, stressful.
Maybe.
Yeah. But you don't rest, even when you're happy doing things and working. Is rest something you allow yourself?
I think because my mum died at 57, I don't need a song telling me that I haven't got all the time in the world. I know I haven't. And therefore, I feel in a hurry. I feel like life is a colossal hurry. I've got to hurry up and do stuff and hurry up about it and just keep doing it because the time will come when I can't, when I'm not there or when I'm ill or some horrible thing. So I don't feel that this is the time to rest. I feel you're a long time dead. And while you're alive, you should do shit.
Yeah.
And
if you have the energy for it and you love it and it brings you joy.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing that came up in your questionnaire was ultra-processed food.
Oh, yeah.
That's also not good for biological age.
No.
So what does that include?
Well, all I know is when the story broke about, was it horse meat in their lasagna or their whatever, it was their ready meals of, shepherd's pie or something.
Yeah.
I just happened to notice that at the BBC where I worked at the time, nobody seemed to give a damn about it because they don't eat those foods. They were like, I've never eaten a, ready meal of, a ready meal, shepherd's pie or something. I've eaten hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And I just thought, gosh, I'm on a completely different plane as far as food's concerned. I mean, it's not like I don't like food. I do like it.
Yeah.
But I haven't been a sort of foodie and I haven't been a health food freak and an organic person. And, when I was married to a junior hospital doctor, we really didn't have any money for that sort of thing. I was just trying to feed the kids.
Yeah.
And I admit to having given them the McDonald's 99p Happy Meal in those days, a long time ago, because my eldest was about, please God, to be 40. So it's a long time ago. But, because it was inexpensive, I knew she'd eat it.
Yeah.
I knew she'd enjoy it. I like the idea of the Happy Meal making her happy. I just like the whole thing. I didn't think I'm middle class and educated. This is below me, beneath me. I shouldn't be doing this. I feel full of guilt at doing this. I'm going to go and milk a cow and give her some raw unprocessed milk. I just didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know why not, but I just didn't. I haven't been one of those middle class educated people that's constantly peeling an avocado. I just haven't.
Well, you're busy.
Probably should have been, but I haven't. So, do I eat ultra processed foods? Asked your form. And the answer was yes. Not exclusively. No. And obviously these days with more awareness, because everyone makes such a fucking fuss about it, don't they?
What do you think about the culture of, especially on social media, there are women who've made this traditional return to like churning their own butter and making sourdough and really demonstrating how organic they can be for their children. What do you think that's about?
I think it's delightful for them, and I can't think of anything more tedious than any of that stuff. And, if they want to lob me the occasional sourdough loaf, I'm sure I'd thoroughly enjoy eating. I'm certainly not going to make one or bake one. I've never, ever baked a pie in my life. I've never baked, in fact, I think, in my entire life. No. I normally just go through my kitchen and give it a pat. And my children do say that when they hear a microwave ping, they think, just like Mummy used to make. Yeah. I thought I was meant to be an intellectual. I wasn't meant to be cooking, was I?
No.
I didn't feel as if I was. Maybe I was obviously wrong, but I didn't realize. I made many mistakes. This is just another of my many mistakes.
No, I don't think so, because do you know what? If you are a highly functioning, super successful, famous single dad, would anyone be asking you about like, well, how often are you cooking from scratch?
They might. And then, all these very functioning, successful super dads might well say, before work, I prime my sourdough, whatever you do. They have some germ or virus that you've got to
feed it.
What do they have to feed or whatever it is? I don't know. And I wouldn't recognize one of those if it bit me in the arse. Honestly, I've never seen one. I don't know what they are. But there are lots of people who are highly effective and dynamic and do cook from scratch and do, grow their own marrows and do care a lot about this stuff. And I obviously got this gaping chasm where I ought to care about this stuff, and I'm probably just eating a curly whirly and sacrificing yet another tooth and, piling into some horse meat that's been, smuggled into some lasagna and not really caring less about it. I think that's me. I don't know. I don't think anyone's ever asked me this before, and I'm ashamed and humiliated as usual, but that is the truth. I'm telling the truth. Unvarnished. Where's my varnish? Where's my facade?
I like the lack of
fascia?
facade.
Where's the bit where I start lying to you? I'm trying to drum up that bit, but I can't seem to do it. It's your look. It's your sweet, disarming Amish.
It's my Amish
look.
outfit.
Yeah. You're like a milkmaid.
Only organic. I had a chicken tikka masala for breakfast at 8 a.m. today.
Did you? Delicious.
You just eat what you want.
And I haven't had any lunch or anything today.
And you make what?
Well, I've just got my show's 2 till 3.
Yeah.
I'm in makeup at 12:30. There just isn't time to really have lunch. And then I came straight here and nobody offered me I haven't even been offered a banana by your team of henchmen and butlers and liveried flunkies.
Oh, no, what
Nothing.
have we got?
What have you got? I'm starving.
Yeah,
Actually starving. I might be losing weight as I sit here.
I know.
Do I look thinner?
Well, we'll wrap
Do I look
it up.
gaunt? Do I look gaunt? Is there a sandwich to
Diseased.
take away? What food is there in this
Gaunt.
place? Is there any food here? Is there anything processed, unprocessed?
No.
What's that? Is that a piece of old cake on a plate there?
Oh, you do get a cake in a minute.
Do I get cake? Or is it a piece of new cake?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. You didn't say there was going to be food.
Well, it's a new formatting point where we will reveal your biological age on an actual cake.
And then do I get to eat the cake?
And you
I'm
can
starving.
eat it for breakfast.
Okay. Now.
At 4 p.m. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you. Good. Now I'm really cheering up.
Because you make me feel better. And I think this is what's so wonderful about you is this lack of facade.
Well, my grandma Sybil took my uncle Melvin to the pediatrician and said, "Doctor, I just don't know what to do. He'll only drink Pepsi Cola and eat, I think it was, Cadbury's dairy milk." And he was 6'4".
Whoa.
And the doctor said, Mrs. Orenstein, I think he's going to be all right. Don't worry too much about it. And he is all right, still alive. He's a solicitor. He's a venerable man of great knowledge and happily married. And also he's got lovely children and grandchildren. He's great. And all he had drank was Pepsi. And
does he have any hot single friends? Tall?
he's my uncle, you see, so he's about 16 years older than me. When you get my age, you don't really want an older man. That's just too old.
No, that's all I want is an older man.
You don't.
Old.
Think carefully about it. You don't.
But what if they were super wealthy and old? You can point out a fox to a man in a wheelchair.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Because then they won't be around that long.
My inner Florence Nightingale, get ready to unleash.
Okay.
I don't think so.
What age are we looking for?
Similar age, couple of years older.
Yeah.
Couple of years younger.
Yeah.
But not much younger and not much older. I think would be good.
Younger's good, I think, for women. I think the
I've
younger
done that,
men.
I have done that.
Well, yes.
Yes. And then you've never felt so old as when you're with a younger man.
Okay.
It's the most aging thing on earth. It really is. Okay. You're reminded of your age every second of every day. And I had to draw a veil over the entire menopause.
Oh,
can you imagine?
No.
All I wanted to do was go and stick my nipples in the freezer, and I just had to pretend I was at room temperature, and I was not. I was either on fire, aflame, absolutely Arctic, shivering, and I just had to smile through in a sexual negligee of some kind the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was 10 years younger, and I just thought it would be such a turn-off if I even acknowledged I never uttered the M word. I never, ever referred to it. If I had my old Jewish husband, I could have been moaning every minute. I'm hot, I'm cold, open the window, close the window. But I never said a word, not one word, because I just wanted to be alluring at all times and pretend to have hormones I don't have.
It's back to the summer
Nightmare.
of 76.
Yeah, nightmare.
Was your husband, have you returned to Jewish since?
I've tried.
Oh.
Quite difficult. I think because Jewish men are so highly prized. Because A, there aren't very many Jews in this country at all.
Yeah, and they stay
about
married.
250,000 Jewish people in total in the whole country, in a country of 65 million plus people. So very, very few.
Yeah.
So therefore very, very few of the right kind of age and provenance. And they have been taught by their mothers quite rightly and accurately that they are a precious cargo, that they are of inestimable value, that any woman would be so fortunate to cut their toenails and give them a blowjob, that they are really worth, just pashas and sultans, but Jewish. And so to date them is difficult because they don't feel they need to provide anything at all but their presence.
That's true.
Just here I am, the end. I don't say anything funny. I don't say anything sexy. I don't flirt. I just, this is me, okay? Here I am, old, fraying at the edges, crumbling like an old Ritz cracker, but here I am, it's me, okay? And then you're meant to be grateful. Yeah. So I have found it quite difficult, got to say. Have tried though.
You do a podcast with your daughter.
Yeah.
Which we love, called Help, My Child is Anxious.
Thank you.
And you have said that family is a hugely important part of your life.
Yeah, now I'm going to start smiling. When I get the cake, I'm really going to cheer up. But talking about am I allowed to talk about my grandchildren now? Is that where we're going with this?
Of course you may.
I've got these marvellous grandchildren. Where's my bag? So this is the only bag I ever use. They get updated every few months.
Oh.
But look at this bag. This is my grandbabies.
That's great. I did think that you were getting the bag so that we could see a phone with photos on it, but the photos are right on the bag. What are these Jewish children doing in Christmas outfits?
Well, we have Christmas with British. Aren't they lovely though?
Yeah.
So the baby is Cecily, she's 3. Then there's AJ
Cecily.
who's 6, Nerily who's 10, and Zeke who's 12. So it's bar mitzvah next year.
Zeke.
We're counting down to the bar mitzvah. So it's all going on. They're lovely.
Do you know what's wild? I met Cecily and I didn't know at first that she was your granddaughter.
Yeah.
But she looks like you.
Do you think so?
Yes. And then I think it was her other grandmother or someone with her
Yes, probably.
Oh, I think you know her other grandmother. And I looked at her and I said, is it Vanessa Feltz?
Yeah.
They went, yeah.
Yes.
So that must
Tremendous.
keep you feeling young, looking like a 3-year-old.
I don't think I look like a 3-year-old. I'm not sure she looks like me, but
She does look like you.
Well, Google thinks she looks like me because
I think she
Google
looks
put
like
a
you.
picture of me and put Cecily, and it was me when I was her age.
Yeah, no, she looks like you, I promise.
It's not just that she looks like me, she talks like me. Yeah. I mean, she holds forth, she has
certainly
discourse.
hope not, yeah.
She takes she really does. She's hilarious and she takes the rest. And they obviously the absolute light of my life and total joy, and they really are.
And how lovely to be near to them and to get to see them so often and to be working with your daughter.
Yeah, which I didn't expect. She's a primary school teacher. How are we going to end up working together? That was never going to happen.
I've loved you for a long time. I've known a lot about you. Hearing it all now, it sounds like you have many things about your life and your family and your joy and how cultured and clever you are that will keep you young. But there's heartbreak, there is stress, there are surgeries.
Processed foods.
I don't know. I never know what the result is going to be, but we're going to reveal your biological age with the help of our resident scientist, Dr. Nicola Conlon, to interpret the results. Are you ready?
Yes.
Vanessa Feltz, we took your blood, and the people at GlycanAge tested it, and we are now joined by Dr. Nicola Conlon to reveal your biological age. So your chronological age is 64. Your biological age is, are you ready? 71.
Oh no. I suspected I might be 14. I'm devastated and shocked. Oh dear, this is so bad.
Nicola, what happened?
It's definitely not bad.
What a terrible number. I hate it. Can't I throw my body in front of it to cause a distraction so we don't have to look at it anymore?
I could put the cloche back if it
That's
makes
really
you more
put the cloche
comfortable.
back. That's killing me, honestly. God, I'm going to withhold permission for this to be broadcast. Might affect my entire career. I'm still waiting to star in a Hollywood A-list movie. Terrible.
It's not all bad. First of all, let's recall my biological age is 77. And with the help of Dr. Nicola Conlon and some advice, it is reversible.
Good.
So we could have taken your blood at a particularly stressful time. Nicola, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Such a vivacious woman.
So the first thing to say is that your biological age, unlike your chronological age, is absolutely reversible. And it can reverse very quickly. And just as it can reverse very quickly, things can make it go up just as well, like a stressful period of life. You know, even having a couple of months where sleep's not been great, sleep's something I'd definitely like to ask you about after going through many, many years of, you know, hosting the show early in the morning. But I think the key thing here is that it is absolutely reversible. So it's definitely nothing to panic about. But we do see some little clues in our results about what might be driving it. And the one thing that did stand out with your results was what we would call the manager's profile. So we call this somebody that is on the go 24/7. They have a really hectic lifestyle, maybe not sleeping as good as they should. And this sounds quite maybe like your life. I know Catherine was saying about rest. Do you ever rest? Which she said you don't.
No, is this the time she said I've been out every single night bar one for 3 years?
Okay.
Whoa.
So maybe, you know, resting not necessarily. I'm not exaggerating. That is
Out
the
where?
truth.
Like for dinners?
Out for dinner, out to a show, out to a play, out with
Wow.
friends, out to something or other.
Yeah.
Because I'm not happy. I don't like staying at home on my own. I don't like an empty house. I just
Yeah.
don't like the feeling. So
Yeah.
I have schlepped out and literally come hell or high water in snow, in rain. There's only been one time, and I only stayed in because the arrangement fell through. And that was about 2 years ago, I think, out every single night. And I'm not exaggerating. It is the truth. And maybe that's got something to do with it.
Wow.
Do you think?
That's definitely a first.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But I've also never heard Nicola speak about this manager's profile.
Oh, have you not?
So you are unique.
Yeah, it is. It's a thing. And we call it manager's profile because we typically see it in people that are, I don't know, like running companies and, you know, have a really hectic life where there's really no give.
Actually, I should just say last year, I worked 7 days a week
Yeah.
for 10 months. So I didn't have, and I had, I think, 2 days off when Channel 5 showed the snooker. So I worked every single day. I did 7 shows a week, plus the newspaper column, plus the magazine column. So 2 LBCs at weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the Channel 5 show every weekday, and the column and the magazine column, with only 2 days off in 10 months. So maybe that might have something to do with it. Do you think?
I think that's probably got a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that would be classic manager profile. But the thing is, it's about, you know, you mentioned earlier, because I've obviously been listening in the back, about like being rushing everywhere and always, you know, onto the next thing. And what we often don't realize is that in our body's kind of perceiving that as stress in terms of, you're thinking maybe psychological stress, but it's not. It's like cortisol stress where you're like, okay, I've got to be here by this time, or I'm got to be on the next thing. It's like a rushing kind of stress. And sometimes, although we don't think we're stressed, we're just so used to like operating at this elevated system. And inside, the body can suffer a little bit at the cellular level. But these things, again, are things that are very easy to shift just by trying to book a little bit of time in, you know, maybe take a few breaths every now and again.
But
just
do you think that would cause someone like Vanessa more stress?
Well, yeah, because I know what you were saying as well about, you know, being at home by yourself, feeling lonely.
It's not lonely. It's just that feeling of, God, I'm not going to see another living soul till I go to work the next day.
I think you are so clever. You need constant stimulation.
So clever. I don't know if it's
It's
that.
true. I think I see it in a lot of high functioning, really successful type A women and what about these men, these stimulating men? And heartbreak, does that live in the body?
Absolutely, yes. Heartbreak definitely does. And that definitely is a more psychological stress. And we do know that going through periods, because it's trauma essentially, and going through periods of trauma, there have been a lot of studies that have shown that even trauma that people have had in, earlier in life can still show up in the body as a higher biological age later on. So that definitely is a thing. The other thing, which I'm going to touch upon, is the ultra processed food, because we do know that has a big role. So, and even making small changes, like just trying to get a few more fruits, vegetables, things like that in, does really help. And it was so interesting what you were saying earlier about having the gastric band, and that it didn't even allow you to be able to eat the healthy food.
True.
For me, that was crazy. I hadn't come across that before. And we know that, you often see this with diet foods. A lot of diet foods are heavily processed. And at that time, the body needs more nourishment. It needs the vitamins, the minerals, things like that. Do you take anything to support that? Do you have to take supplements to help with?
I take multivitamin.
Okay.
I take vitamin D, and I take something or other that, what's his name? Russell Kane, the comedian. I love him. And his wife has developed this range of stuff that says like get younger or don't be so old or something like that. So I'm taking that. So if that has a great effect on me, maybe I'll come back and you can measure me again, and maybe that'll work, because I've only just started taking those. So yes, I take all that stuff.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. If you feel like your diet isn't getting that nutritional support that you need, definitely trying to supplement with things as well is always helpful. But even just trying to take out some of the ultra processed things, because it's not the fact that hasn't got the nutrients in it. It's also some of the chemicals that go in it. And we've all been there. We've all got kids where we've been like, quickly eat this. It's easy, it's quick, and it's fast. But for a long time, we didn't really know any better. That was the way we were brought up. But now there's so much research coming out showing that actually some of the chemicals that are in the ultra processed foods are causing inflammation and basically damaging the gut a little bit, which then can damage or cause inflammation around the rest of the body. The other thing was sleep. So
yes.
what is your sleep like?
Not great.
Right, okay.
Not great, because obviously I think the 12 years of getting up at 3:20 was just, and it's quite hard to sort of reverse it and go back to normal.
Yeah.
And, broken sleep and all that kind of thing, because I was always checking with one eye open to check that I hadn't overslept, because the worst feeling on earth was the idea you might miss your show and just sleep through an alarm and all of that kind of thing. That was 12 years on proper red alert. Yeah. So I've stopped that now. That stopped in August 2022. So it ought to have calmed down. But unfortunately, by January 2023, the last relationship I had chucked out the last incumbent, let's put it that way. And since which time I have never felt quite settled in the way that you need to be really settled to have a good kip. So a combination of a broken heart and a broken sleep pattern isn't good for sleep. No. So I'm doing my best to sleep. Yeah. What can I do? I'm trying my hardest to do it, but the harder you try, the more it eludes you. It's difficult. You don't want to be trying hard to sleep. You want to just drift into a beautiful, dreamless, charming, refreshing sleep. Yeah. If you're trying to make yourself do it with all the ferocity that you put into making yourself do all the things you do all day, write the column, present the show, do the thing, see the grandchildren, go to sleep, just go to sleep.
Yeah.
It's like, have an orgasm, have it. It's not, when you're doing that, it's not as easy to do, is it? Difficult. So there's that whole thing. Yeah. So being a driven person, trying to drive myself to do the things I know I should do, want to do, and all this palaver. Bloody knackering, all this driving yourself to do stuff. And so knackering, you'd think I'd have a good sleep. Yeah. The truth is, and I said I've been out every night except one for 3 years, and it's true. And when I come in, sometimes I'm really, really exhausted. I'm exhausted. I've been working all day. I've been out in the evening. I'm going to be 60. I'm 64. I'm tired, really tired. So I walk in. I open the door, but the sort of the feeling of being on my own hits me almost like in the face with a really hard sort of punching sock to the face, and it wakes me up. So I come in exhausted, and then the kind of feeling that, oh my God, I'm here in an empty house. Not that I'm not frightened. I'm not scared, and I'm not lonely. I just don't like it. Yeah. And I don't like the feeling of it. And the feeling of not liking it acts as a kind of waking up thing.
Yeah.
And then I find it hard to subside into a really great sleep, unfortunately. I don't mean to sound like a sort of case for somebody to play guitar, violins for my terrible misery, because I'm not miserable. It's just that is what's happening, I think. And actually, I do notice when I'm with the kids and when for example, I've got a lovely house in Ireland and we all stay in it together, or when we're on holiday together, I sleep fine. Because I know they're there and I like them being there, and the feeling's different and it's much more conducive to having a good kip. But in general, it's not as easy. Oh, look at the face. This
Honestly,
lovely doctor has got a very sweet face.
A really nice man. I know you're like, no, man. I just want to find you someone really nice.
There must be someone. You must have some ancient doctors, decrepit old doctors lurking about. If you think of anyone.
Those are mine. Well, what about the juxtaposition, Nicola, that the biological age is higher, probably due to, because we see this with elite athletes on the show too.
Really?
The more elite the athlete, the less rest period there is, and their biological age is higher. But what about the juxtaposition between a higher biological age but such a youthful energy?
Yeah. So sometimes, we see this discrepancy, but people are like, I do not feel like this. And what we always say is when you do get a biological age that comes back a bit higher, it doesn't mean that it's having that effect on the outside. It's almost like a little bit of a warning system. And that's why it's such a good thing to measure, because it means that you can go, okay, I've had my little warning.
Right.
Now maybe I take a step back. Maybe I just have a little bit of time out. Maybe I slow down a little bit. I hate to say slow down because we're all busy people. We like having busy lives. That's what we thrive on. So it's not about slowing down, but it's about, having those moments where you maybe aren't on full throttle. So you can just let your body just come out of that fight or flight. That might even, help with the sleep as well. Because if you were out and you're coming back late and, you've been stimulated, whether you're at a show or you're out, or, even when I come to London, I find it really difficult trying to go to sleep at night in a hotel and it's late, but it's like the city is just so stimulating that, you can't really switch off. So trying to wind down a little bit earlier, trying to improve sleep. I think the fact that you're not doing the early shows will have had wonders. I would have been really interested to see what the measurement was then.
I bet it's come down since then.
Yeah, because it's ultimately shift work.
Yeah,
I know. It's like doing shift work.
My heart goes out to all shift work because it's so difficult. You feel jet lagged the whole time. And you feel out of sync with everybody in your life that matters all the time. And I did it for 12 years. Some people do it for their whole lives and never complain and don't make a fuss. So I don't want to make a fuss, but yeah.
Well, are you planning to make any changes
Everything.
Following this result?
First of all, I'm going to take this beautiful doctor home and install her in so she can, I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to stop the processed foods. I'm going to start going to sleep. I obviously will take heed. I'm just dreading the moment when my daughters listen to this and start giving me a colossal telling off, which you can tell they're going to do, aren't they?
They can relax. My mom listened to the episode where I was 77
and
she cried.
Oh, she cried. Oh,
my
no.
My sister told me that she found my mom crying listening to the podcast.
Oh, no.
She took it really seriously. And I was like, it's fine.
Oh.
And then I got pregnant and it came down. So you could try that.
I would do. I'm happy to do that.
It is reversible. I started taking some of Nicola's supplements and that is the good thing about biological age. However, I think a high biological age is a small price to pay for being a very effective type A, formidable woman.
That's a delightful thing to say. It's a very nice way of interpreting it. Thank you very much.
It means that you're high performance.
Thank you.
All right. Well, your body looks young.
Oh, dear.
You feel 14.
Oh, God.
This was not the result you were hoping for. I know that today. But thank you very much for sharing with us and coming on. And I think we'll have you back and we'll get that biological age down to, what would you like it to be, 35?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I do ask my grandchildren, how old do I look? I say, take a glimpse of me, catch a glimpse. How old do I look? Glimpse me. Don't look at me, just glimpse me. How old do I look? And the correct answer is 37. So I don't mind if it's 37.
Fine.
And actually, can I take back what I said about not eating the cake and eat it on the way home? Or is that processed food? You see, that's not going to do me any good.
It's all about balance. It's all about balance.
No, but this restrictive dieting is also really damaging because your body is heartbroken, hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can't do that
that is
anymore.
a type of stress on the body, which,
We're going to eat the cake.
Yeah, good.
There you are.
Good.
I fixed it anyway.
17 is much better.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Vanessa Feltz for appearing on What's My Age Again, for giving us her blood, and for being the very, very indiscreet woman that we have all loved so much for so many years. If you want to hear more from Vanessa, just stick your head out the window. She's probably on some show somewhere right now, flying by on a motorbike, or you can listen to her podcast that she does with her daughter. It's called Help, My Child is Anxious, and it's so funny. You can listen to that wherever you get your podcasts. And please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends and listen to all the other ones as well. Bye.